Question.
Yeah. So, how does a master feel in the face of this continual insecurity? I mean, do they feel a certain comfort in the uncertainty of the situation?
They enjoy it. They enjoy it just like a musician enjoys improvising. You know, he doesn't go, "Oh God, what am I doing here? You know, I don't know what's going to come next. This might be terrible. I might play the wrong note." No, I mean, if he's doing that, he's no good. He has to be somebody who by nature enjoys that condition. And if you train yourself to enjoy that condition, you are training yourself to be a master, not just of martial arts, but of life. Because life constantly confronts you with this condition. And if you don't like it, if you're constantly fighting to be secure about everything, first of all, you know, you'll have bad relations with people because all your relationships with people will be based on wanting to always be in a position of power with them. Just like the martial artist usually wants to be in a position of power with his opponent. You know, like I say, if you can integrate this kind of pleasure into your life, you'll become a much more enlightened person because you will not fight fate. You know, but like I said, you have to just enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you're not trained enough. And again, this is not just in the martial arts. This is everything in life. At a certain point, you realize, you know, you're never confronted with these easy situations where you know everything in advance. And you'll ruin your life if you try to maneuver it into these situations constantly. And you'll constantly screw up your relations with other people because they sense that you need them to be in this, you know, kind of state where you're controlling them. And this is what makes people, you know, not like you. When you try to, see, I always say, if you want to control people, you will be controlled by them. Because your desire to control them gives them the power over you. All they have to do is make it difficult for you to control them. And, you know, you'll be completely frustrated. They're controlling you now. They're forcing you to repeat over and over again this horrible attempt to control them. And, you know, it doesn't work. And so you get more and more frustrated. So, you know, I'm always telling people, I'm not always telling this, but occasionally I'm telling people, the reason you can't control me is that I don't care about controlling you. I don't care what you do. You can do anything you want. I want you to be free. I want you to have freedom. If you want your fellow man to have freedom, so that, you know, because you enjoy the state of relative insecurity, like I'm saying, because you don't know what he's going to do next and you're not controlling what he's going to. If that's what you enjoy, he's going to like you. You know, you're going to make real friends instead of phony things with like people you can control. So this becomes a deep thing. I mean, you know, this is like Taiji in daily life or something. You know, you could write a book about this and sort of say, but rather than write a book about it, I'd rather train people to actually do it. Now, you can put this all on a mental level. Everything I just said, you can put it in a book and people would go, wow, I guess that's right. You know, sounds right. But could they do it? Maybe. If they're already enlightened in some way, they could just change their behavior and say, okay, I'm not going to try to control people anymore. But it's pretty compulsive. What I found is the most basic, fundamental method of changing yourself is physical. In other words, it's possible to have enlightenment come from the top down. I mean, it's happened. And there's historical record of it. You know, people have been enlightened in some sort of spiritual way, and it changes their whole being and their body and everything. And they suddenly, you know, manifest all of these like physical traits and they become healthy, whatever. But this is not the way it usually works. You have to go from the bottom up. If you neglect the physical body and you try to start, well, like for instance, with your emotional state, you say, oh, okay, I'm emotionally screwed up, so I'm going to fix my emotions. Well, most of the time, your emotions are linked to your organs. I mean, that's just a physical thing. Emotions are very connected to your hormones and all this stuff, so it's just chemical. And you can't just say, I'm going to just change my emotions at will. Your body resists this. It's screwed up. But if somehow you can physically reform your body so that then the detection of emotion becomes natural. So it's the same thing that, you know, this is why Taiji is so physical. This thing of teaching people to make Taiji relationships with each other physically is so powerful. Sure, you can convince them that it's a good idea mentally. You can convince them that they should behave this way. You can lay it all out in a book and say, yeah, stop trying to control people, let people be free. It all sounds great. Yeah, of course I want everybody to free. But maybe you don't really want everybody to be free because somehow on a deeper level, that makes you feel very insecure. And you want this security. You just can't. So in other words, this insecurity that you're learning to love, which I'm describing just as like this thing in 3-step, where you're learning to wait to the last possible second to take your step. And this is not a secure feeling. This is like, I'm right on the edge. But you learn to really love it, right? So this is a physical experience of being with another person and physically acting out the real Taiji principle. Well, I think when you do this, it's naturally going to filter into your higher levels of your being. You're going to naturally behave this way with other people in a psychological sense. So this is the way to do it. So like I say, rather than write a book about it and tell people this is the way you should behave, this is how enlightened you should be, yes?
That book was a bestseller.
Oh, it might be. And sometimes I regret not writing it. And maybe,
maybe you will.
That's another story. I mean, I have my own psychological problems about writing stuff like that. But what I prefer to do, what really gives me a thrill, is putting it on a physical level. Because I can see when people actually manifest it physically with each other. It's really great. Now, look, when you're doing hand pushing with somebody, when you're in a class with someone, every single person in that class is going to have something about them that you can't stand. You can guarantee that whatever this terrible, obnoxious trait that they have, it's going to come out physically. And you can recognize it. And this is, I can see you guys doing this when you do hand pushing with each other. Sometimes I can recognize it. And you don't realize that's what it is. And it manifests as something very simple. Like you say, oh, this guy plays with me for a while, and then all of a sudden he just can't resist, push me over or do something. And the thing is, when you see this, you should feel sorry for him. In other words, you should say, oh man, this is a trait of his that's compulsively coming out on a physical level. And you can choose to be pissed off about it and say, I don't want to do hand pushing with this guy, But the point is, you actually have the tools to correct this on a physical level. You can learn to neutralize this physical manifestation of of his obnoxiousness in such a way that it actually cures him of it. I mean, I promise you this is true. And this is why I get frustrated sometimes when people come to me and they go, look, and this has happened to me more than once in more than one school. They say, everything's great except I don't want to do hand pushing with this one guy. Can you please never put me with him because it really pisses me off? Well, I'm saying, this is the guy you should be doing hand pushing with. I mean, this is the guy who has something about him that you have to learn to neutralize on a physical level. And as soon as you do, your whole relationship with him will change. And this is why I think, the whole psychological experience, the whole experience of in a class of Taiji that's done right, it's a very psychologically healthy place because people are confronting these kinds of conflicts on a level which they actually can solve. And maybe but the solving takes skill. That's why you do you can't just say, oh, I get the idea, Bob. I'm going to solve this now. No, it takes skill. It takes all the little things that you have to learn when you're doing, the form. It takes all the little skills of hand pushing. It takes a buildup of all these skills. But the skills give you the power to do that. I mean, this has been true ever since I started teaching. But I didn't really understand the depth of it until I got better at teaching it. Until I got better at the actual protocols and understanding. That's what I'm saying. You have to understand each protocol and what it's designed to teach. It's going to give each student a certain level of skill. But that level of skill is going to finally contribute to his ability to deal with someone who is basically doing something he doesn't like, right? And again, instead of being angry at the person or frustrated or saying, I don't want to do this, you should feel sorry for them. They're manifesting something that is not good for them. You should help them in a certain way. But helping them means neutralizing this thing. And to neutralize it takes skill. And maybe in this particular case, you don't have the level of skill. Then you're just going to have to tolerate this guy until your level of skill reaches that point. But it will. So, hang in there. And try, and like I say, try not to be irritated by it, but try to always say, I should feel sorry for this guy. So I hope this is how you understand this. Because like I say, this is how Taijiquan translates into something higher level. But it only translates into the higher level because it's working on the physical level. And that's why it's so profound to me. And that's why other martial arts, I would have quit the martial arts a long time ago if it wasn't for Taijiquan. Because what they actually do is, kind of teach you how to, teaches you how to control people, right? And this is not, I don't like controlling people any more than I like having somebody who I'm improvising music with do something predictable on his instrument. I would much rather he do something unpredictable, something that I can't control. I'd much rather him be free. Now, once you develop the attitude that you want your fellow man to be free and not, controlled by you, I promise you, he's going to like you more. Look, has what I've been talking about all this time, been of any help to anybody? I want approval. Give me your approval, please. I need your approval. But to me, this is what makes. Oh, is there a question?
Approval.
Approval. I'm getting approval. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, without trying to control you.
Oh my! I hope not. Like I say, when you get a whole bunch of people and none of them are trying to control each other, then you have a party, and that's that's what's really fun.
Bob, that's absolutely, the heart of the matter. I think it's really profound, and it's this ability to let things be as they are runs really, really deep, and when that happens, those things teach you how they want to be. And, as long as you have an idea, you're trying to impose that idea, and so you can't respond to what's happening. So, everything you're saying is like pure Buddhism.
Yes, it is. I know. But the thing is, like I say, it's true on every level of being, but it only is practical in terms of really changing you if you start on the physical level. That's so powerful. Like Patanjali said, there's only one in a, there probably weren't even 1 million people on the planet Earth when he said this. He said maybe 1 in a million people can master Raja Yoga without mastering Hatha Yoga. But, it's completely rare. You've got to go through the physical. The key is the physical. And I remember Leonanda, who I just regard as still my greatest teacher. He turned to me one time and he said, man is a physical being. You live in a physical world. You cannot ignore it. This is, maybe everything has, you can understand it on other levels. But if you want to actually participate in this world, you've got to start with your physical being. Well, with yoga, it's kind of like the danger is like just total narcissism because you're just making yourself this pure yogi. But with Taiji, it's beautiful because it's behavior. It's actually behavior with other people. And what appealed to me, I used to teach yoga, and I had to give it up because I discovered you either make people into complete narcissists who are just staring at their own navel and trying to be more perfect all the time, or you have to give them religion because the only way they can get out of themselves is to relate to God and say, okay, I want to join with Brahma, the I and thou dichotomy, okay? But Taiji is a wonderful intermediate step. Instead of God, you have another person. And all you do is just say, okay, I don't have to go religious on me. All I have to do is love this other person. And that's why this whole concept is very profound, in sword fighting and everything. Loving your opponent. I'm always saying, when you love somebody, you turn all of your attention to them. None of it comes to you. You don't think, oh, I'm loving them. This is great, But instead, you just feel you love the other person. And yet you feel all this energy flow in yourself as a result of that. You're not concentrating on yourself at all. Well, this is the ideal of a martial art. You don't think of yourself at all. You just think of the other person. You just turn it to them. And suddenly you have all this power and all this response. And so that's loving your opponent. So this whole idea of love your opponent, even though he's trying to kill you, then you should love him the most. Okay, guys, on that note, I'm getting the signal that we're way over time here. So, like I say, I hope this rap of mine has been useful. I love you all.